Hey, I'm Sommelier André Hueston Mack, and today we're gonna be tasting 7 different Pinot Noirs from 7 different regions in the world. France, Germany, South Africa, US, Argentina, Australia, and New Zealand. This is my favorite way to taste. It's the best way to kind of really get the nuances and the subtleties in the wine. So what's amazing about wine is these are all the same grape, Pinot Noir. But what makes them different, or what can influence the taste, is where they're grown. So microclimates, the soil, all those things have a reflection on the wine, and that's what's really cool about the whole thing. First up, let's start with France. So this is Joseph Drouin. This is 2018 Gevrey Chambertin. So this is actually from France in a region called Burgundy, and Gevrey is a village in Burgundy. And so much like real estate, it's about location, location, location. I thought it would be best to start here since this is the birthplace of Pinot Noir, and this will be the benchmark for our tasting today. The French believe in something called terroir, so the wine is named after a place. And that particular place lends flavor and characteristics to the wine. So if you look at this bottle, there's no grape varietal. It doesn't tell you that it's Pinot Noir. So we're gonna give it a little pour here. Bright ruby, clear. This is quintessential Pinot Noir. The look, I mean, I can already smell the aromas coming out of the bottle. So Burgundy has a continental climate, very short summers, cool winters, and that can really affect the color of the grape. The closer you are to the equator, the warmer it is. This is a lot further away from the equator, so you don't get a lot of sunlight, so the grapes don't really have a chance to really kind of ripen. If you don't get a lot of sunlight, you don't get a lot of color in the wine. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it a smell here. So I'm getting raspberries. I'm smelling like a little slate, some minerality to the wine. So I would assume that that comes from, the limestone that it's grown on. Because of the limestone soil, it produces wines that are full of character, minerality, and nuance. And generally when you're talking about an old world wine, which France is considered, it tends to lead a little bit more with mushroom and soil. I do get like this fruit and kind of tartness to it. So that tells me that it's cool climate. Cool climate is like a retention of acidity. All right, so now we're gonna taste it. I'm already starting to salivate. That means the wine is high in acid. Those things really shine through. It's not sharp or angular in any way. It just means that the wine is not like too acidic. It doesn't feel like needles poking you. It's pretty well distributed. But it definitely has that silkiness that we talk about in Pinot Noir. So it's like kind of like brush cotton right now. And then the second sip, it tends to get a little bit more satiny in a way. And that's what I kind of really enjoy about it. And then as you start to go back in and smell it, it's already started to change a little bit. I'm smelling a little bit of sandalwood. This wine is $90, and that's pretty expensive. I always like to say you get what you pay for in wine, but there are different examples of Burgundy that you can get for right around 30 or 40 bucks. I actually like this one. I think it's great. I think it's a great place to start as we kind of move through the tasting from around the world. So now we have the United States. This is Pinot Noir from the Willamette Valley, and this is called Kings Ridge. So there's other places in Oregon that grow Pinot Noir, but the Willamette Valley is the premier place for Pinot Noir in the United States. I like a good screw cap here. Look at that, easy and simple. And I think first off, you can see just the concentration of a color. I always call it like electric raspberry. It has like this kind of glow to it. Looking at the color, I could definitely say that this is grown in a warmer place. Generally the grapes would be green, right? So if you get less sun, then they don't get all the way to red. The Willamette to me is a remarkable place. What makes this region special is the break in the coastal mountains, which is called the Van Duzer Corridor. And that break in the mountains really allows that maritime influence from the Pacific Ocean to come down and cool down the valley. So if you're growing grapes, you need hot days, cool nights. Yeah, so right off the top, just like big jammy, more like raspberry jam. There's a sweetness to it. And then faint in the background, there's a little bit of smell a little tea, like Earl Grey tea, cherry, and a slight bit of mint. Depending on what part of the valley this is from, I'm thinking more the Red Hills of Dundee that have these kind of rich clay soils. And sometimes from that I get this expression of tea from it. All right, let's taste this. Lots of fruit, raspberry, boysenberry, blackberry, not sweet at all. It is ripe. There's some warm baking spices there, a little bit of forest floor. So like the minerality and the mushroom and kind of the wet forest floor thing that you're getting definitely are attributed from the soil, and the color and the ripeness of fruit is because it's from a warmer climate. It does rain quite a bit, but there are really long summers and hot summers that help the grapes ripen. Oregon to me is kind of like the best of both worlds. So you definitely have that fruit that you associate with New World wines, and you definitely also have terroir, kind of the taste of the land that you associate with the old world. And I think that's what's always made this area special. So this wine is $20, and I think that's pretty fair. This is entry-level Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. This is the least expensive wine that we're tasting today. At this price point, this wine has always been a starlet and over-deliver. So this is a Pinot Noir from New Zealand. So this is Burn Cottage Moonlight Races 2020 from Central Otago. I think we're all familiar with the white wine from New Zealand, Sauvignon Blanc. What most people don't know is they make some of the most amazing and sublime Pinot Noir. Let's get right into it. That's the drunk uncle pour there. Looking at the color, this definitely looks different than a Pinot Noirs that we poured before. It is pretty, I wouldn't call it cloudy, but you can't see through it. It's probably unfiltered and unfined, how it was made. You know, a lot of people don't believe in fining or filtering the wine because they feel like it strips the flavor from it. So I'm okay with that. But it's a different kind of purple. Really kind of looks like grape juice. You know, and I can attribute part of that to its location. It is a warmer part of New Zealand, and that tends to lead to more concentrated color. It doesn't have what we talk about, that P-funk. It doesn't have that barnyardy thing that you tend to get from Pinot Noir, but like what you get is all these aromatics. So it's like a cherry coke to me. And I generally get that all through Pinot Noirs from this particular area, which leads me to believe that it has something to do with the soil and the way that it's grown. And then like it's underlining, like there's tobacco, it smells like a cigarette. That tastes like cherry pie. There's some ripeness in it from the fruit, not sweet, lots of mouthfeel, layers of savory components, truffles, there's leather, like rosemary, it's herbaceous, a little bit of thyme maybe. A lot of those characteristics and things I described are essential to Central Otago Pinot Noir. You look at the Central Otago, it's like mountainous, it's a very dry climate, but what you get is you get those big temperature swings that are really great for Pinot Noir. So the soil type in Central Otago is mainly composed of schist, which is very porous. Porous soil means that water from the rain actually falls deeper. In order to extract water and nutrients, the grapevine struggles and has to dig deeper. The more it struggles, the better concentration you get. So you get less clusters, but you get better clusters that are full of energy and full of rich and like fruit component. I think what's always set, you know, Central Otago Pinot Noirs apart and kind of a legend within the Pinot Noir world is kind of that fruity aspect to it. It's electric, it feels alive. I mean, it probably has more tannic structure than the wine from France. And that's only just because of, you know, it might spend some time longer on the skins, not overly noticeable. This Pinot Noir from New Zealand comes in at $50. This wine is great. I think that it drinks, you know, more like a $100 bottle of Pinot Noir. If you're looking for an example of New Zealand Pinot Noir, this is it. So here we have Germany. This is the 2020 Pinot Noir from Inderol and Mol, and this is from Baden. Baden is the southernmost wine region in Germany. For any grape, or you grow on anything, you need warmth, you need the sun. Baden, they always talk about it or call it blessed with sun, right? Because the other parts of Germany aren't really blessed with sun, but this is the warmest place and the best place to grow Pinot Noir in Germany. We should open this thing up. So we'll go ahead and give it a pour here. Just maybe a lighter ruby kind of raspberry kind of color to it. This is pretty pale compared to the wine from France that we tasted earlier. And because there's less sunlight in Baden than there is in Burgundy, it's going to be reflective in the color. You hear people talk about legs and they're like, oh, look at those legs. And basically those are the teardrops that fall here. And what that can actually tell you about is viscosity. Alcohol can translate to texture on the palate. So I can look at this and I can swirl. And basically you want to see how fast the legs drop. The faster they fall, the less alcohol. The slower they fall means the higher alcohol. So it's really just about evaporation. It smells wild. I don't know another way to put it, like a wild animal, a wet dog. It smells musty. These are all not bad attributes, by the way. This is just kind of how I explain the wine. There's a little like menthol in the wine, and then followed by like crushed berries, like blackberries. But it's really leading with kind of minerality, almost kind of a little bit of like sandstone. The minerality definitely comes from the sandstone and limestone that the wine is produced on, so you definitely get that. This particular cuvee, these wines come from old world vines, which are about 30 years old. So the older the vine, the more concentrated fruit that you get from it. So you can definitely get that on the nose. You know, I'm getting a lot of acid there. It's almost kind of like this dill pickle thing going on with it as well. Less fruit, warming, kind of like cooking spices. So the region of Baden is located between the Black Forest Hills and the Rhine River Hills, and that creates the valley, but also it's close to the Rhine River, and that's where it imparts kind of the salinity into the wine as well. Pinot Noir that was grown in Germany tend to be linear, thin, and not giving much in complexity, and I think over the years, this is a shining example of what it could be. Here we have South African Pinot Noir. So this is Hamilton Russell Pinot Noir, and this is actually from Walker Bay. Hamilton Russell, I would consider, and a lot of people in the industry considered, one of the finest Pinot Noirs in the world. Burgundy is this beacon of light of which Pinot Noir producers around the world love or want to make. Hamilton Russell comes very close to that, and distinguishable in some instances. We'll go ahead and open this. Oh, that's a weird sound. So first off, on color, it's definitely a lot lighter, like a pale strawberry color. There's probably several factors that play into that, but I think the biggest thing is just looking at the climate. Walker Bay is considered the coolest wine growing region in all of South Africa, and that can also attribute to the pale color, big whiff, just all mineral, all minerality, earth, sage, a little bit of thyme. Smells like meat. You tend to get that in some Pinot Noir as well. That can come from clonal selection. When you think about Pinot Noir, there's over 1,000 different clones of Pinot. Some different clones react to the climate different than others, and you want to pick the specific one that's more temperamental to your climate. So still very savory. It almost kind of has like this iron kind of quality to it, and I would suspect that comes from clay and limestone soil. So this is kind of clay-rich soil. Best way to explain it, it's kind of weird. It's like if you bite the inside of your lip, and the thing that you get from just like a little bit of blood in your mouth, it tastes like iron that way. So this particular area, the soil content here is like clay, and it's pretty porous. So the roots get to dig down deep, and by digging down deeper, they produce more concentrated fruit in the wines, and you can actually taste that. This Pinot Noir is $60, and I think when we're talking about Pinot Noir from South Africa, I think that's kind of at the top. And so I don't think you have to start there. We're starting with the best here. Aromatics, mouthfeel, texture, the wine being layered and evolving. You know, the real things that Pinot Noir drinkers love about drinking the wine is exhibit in this bottle. So this is Pinot Noir from Argentina. This is called Barda, and this is actually from Patagonia. I think when we think about wines from Argentina, I think our minds directly go to Malbec, but they make good Pinot Noir. Really intense minerality, like kind of powerful, like really jumping out of the glass. And that could be from the soil that it's grown on. There's plum, bittersweet chocolate, cherry. And then there's a hint of fresh cut grass. Pretty intense, following through with that minerality, but you get lots of plum. And there is some acid there, but pretty well integrated. And then like this kind of like very dense wet rock mineral right at the core and center. This wine is grown at the highest elevation of wines that we tasted today. The higher you are, the cooler it is at night. You're closer to the sun, so you get more UV exposure, but you still get those cool nights. And I think that's really what makes Pinot Noir thrive. And they found this kind of really great pocket in Patagonia. You know, I think what's different about this particular wine than some of the others, this one actually really has P-funk. Like Pinot Noir actually has like this kind of funkiness to it. Like it has that kind of distinctive smell when you smell it, that you kind of know that it's Pinot Noir. This wine is $30, and I'd have to say for Argentinian Pinot Noir from Patagonia, that might be pretty lofty. There's other examples, I'm sure, of Pinot Noir from Argentina that you can get from, you know, 10 to 15 bucks, but this is something different. This is Australian Pinot Noir. This is Moraduke Estate, and this comes from the region of Mornington Peninsula. So if we're thinking about wine and we're thinking about Australia, I think that elephant in the room is Shiraz, but also there's these small pockets around the country that produce some different, dare I say, more exciting wines. There's a little orange hue to it. It's darker in color. So as red wine ages, it tends to get lighter. All the pigment starts to fall out. This is 2018, so this wine has a little bottom maturity to it. So just like in its name, Mornington Peninsula is actually surrounded by water on all three sides, and that produces a maritime climate, hot days, cool nights, so the grapes can ripen phonetically. Definitely minerality to it. There's some fruit that jumps out. I'm getting like cedar, sandalwood, and that could come from it being aged in wood. It smells confectionery. I guess like the best way to explain it, it smells like cotton candy a little bit, but not sweet. It's like has this kind of ripeness to it. That just comes from the heat. I think like that meaty quality that I get in the wine kind of really translates to the soil. All the minerals that I'm getting, this is a slight bit of kerosene, and that I think could come from the soil. It does taste New World because of the fruit in it. This is a really fun Pinot Noir. I think it delivers on all those things that you would like Pinot Noir to be. This well integrated acid, there's minerality, there's aromatics, and then it's slightly savory. Being around the ocean just tends to be a great place for Pinot Noir to thrive. So you have these warm places that you need, like these cooler nights. That's what you get with the ocean, and this is a shining example of that. They think about the other styles of wine from Australia, and they're kind of like beating you over the head with alcohol. That's just not the case here. And I think there's been a movement in Australia to kind of change that perception of like these heavy-handed, high alcohol style wines. So this bottle is $32. $32, you can buy wine in Burgundy for that price. I think a lot of people say, well, aren't they just trying to make Burgundy? If I can find a bottle of Burgundy for $30, why won't I just buy that? I think if you're a fan of Pinot Noir, your curiosity takes you all around the world. And, I think this is a great expression of Pinot Noir just from a different place. It's those nuances and those layers and characteristics that each region exudes make this one of the best ways to taste wine. I think that this is something that you should try at your next party. It doesn't have to be all Pinot Noir. You can choose the theme, you can choose the price point. Your relationship with wine should never be about monogamy. Taste as much and anything as you like.